Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, February the 19th, 2019. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. Hope you had a nice little week here. Obviously, we haven't been on the air since last Tuesday. We were preempted on Thursday for Valentine's Day. So, hope you all had a great Valentine's Day and a great week here. Okay, so obviously the last time we were on the air, we had the in the Spotlight Film Awards. I want to once again thank everybody that was involved in some way, shape, or form with the in the Spotlight Film Awards. They were a tremendous success. Thank you so much to everybody that helped, whether you were somebody that was on the awards committee that helped to tabulate the votes or help put the awards together, whether you were participating in helping in voting or helping with the live vote of the awards in any way, shape, or form, like nominations or helping decide the winners, whatever the case. And to those, of course, that listened and watched, thank you. You made the event a tremendous success. We really do appreciate that. So thank you so much. It was again, it's something. It's probably our biggest show of the year. That and the TV awards, and it did not disappoint. The winners were great. The event came off very well. So thank you to all those that were involved in some way, shape, or form. Again, for that. Before I get into all the other um, important stuff we have to get into and whatnot, let me first, as always, start off by reminding you all of the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight401@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight401. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight401 for any 401 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 401 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it or once you find it, so you can interact with us and know what's going on with the show and all that, and very important, cool, fun stuff. Like I said, this is our first of two shows this week, so we're back in the schedule of two shows a week for this week, for next week, and then for the week after. And then once we hit, now everything's late this year because of we always, and for those that have been fans of ours for a long time, you know how things usually work for us. We usually, as we go into March Madness, the week of conference tournament action, and then the first 2 weeks of the NCAA tournament, we don't usually do Thursday shows because that's usually a big day of games, and I just don't think people like when we do that and stuff like that. So, so for this week, for next week, and then for the week after that, we will be in a 2-show-a-week schedule, and then after that, we will be in a 1-show-a-week schedule through the rest of March. So just be aware of that. And then, a lot of people have been asking me what's going on with the changes to the show, all the things you've been talking about. I will talk more about that on Thursday. I'm going to be ready to unveil some ideas and some plans and stuff like that on Thursday's show. So I don't want to get into it tonight because we have a lot of stuff to do. And it's just not, tonight's not the night to do it. But we will go into all that on Thursday show. We don't have a lot to do on Thursday. On Thursday we're going to do box office beat, TV highlights. I usually like to get those in today, but I think we got too much to do. We're going to do a special report on the current state of the box office. It will be an extension of the box office beat because the box office is in disarray right now. We'll do a little bit of an Oscar preview because that'll be coming up on Sunday. And then, as I said, I'll talk some about what's going to be coming up and how we're going to unveil everything and whatnot on Thursday's show. So Thursday's show won't be very long, but it'll be important enough because of everything we're going to talk about. So that's what's coming up on Thursday. And then next week will be kind of the same thing as this week, where Tuesday we'll probably do mostly sports and wrestling, and Thursday entertainment. Sometimes we might, like we were doing for a couple of weeks there, we might break up some of the sports topics, some of the wrestling segments or something, and split them up into Thursday if we feel like we don't have enough show for Thursday. It'll kind of ebb and flow, but generally these shows will be what they are until we get into March with March Madness and everything, and then after that, we'll see how everything goes. I'll explain more about what's going to happen in the future on Thursday's show. Okay, so with that being said, here's what's coming up tonight. What's funny is I thought it's interesting because last week we did only one show, and that one show was the awards. We didn't really do anything last week. With that being said, I thought tonight would be like, oh, we're going to have a lot of stuff to do, even though we have 2 shows, we split it up. But we really didn't. When I sat down to iron out what we're going to do tonight, I kind of came to the determination. I'm like, wow, we don't have a lot. We just have the bubble watch, and then we got mostly wrestling, because really not a whole lot happened in sports. And we had the NBA All-Star stuff, which I'll talk about. I didn't put it in the show description. I should have, but we'll talk briefly about it. But then the Manny Machado stuff broke this afternoon, and now that's a big topic in and of itself. So that kind of changed the game a little bit and made me switch things up. Like, I was going to do the TV highlights. Like, I like to do those when Mike's on the air. Well, now I can't really do those because we gotta get the Machado stuff in, because it's the big sports story today. So we're gonna talk about Manny Machado, which is gonna really kind of jumpstart the free agent market again. We'll talk about the NBA All-Star thing briefly, All-Star Weekend briefly. We will talk about we had the Pebble Beach. A lot of people asked about Pebble Beach and Phil Mickelson and what it means anything. Well, I'll touch on that briefly. I didn't put that in the description either because I just thought it wasn't worth noting. But I'll touch on that because a few people asked me about that. And then wrestling. We got a lot of wrestling to get to. Elimination Chamber, Fallout, Raw, and SmackDown. It's been a pretty big week for WWE. There's a lot of Wrestlemania stuff out there. We'll talk all about that here on the show tonight. And that's what's coming up tonight. I already told you what's coming up on Thursday and a little bit about next week too. So that's what's going on, well, tonight and in the near future. And as my nature, I like to explain why we're late. It's been a little bit of a night. There's been some family stuff going on and a lot of phone calls and stuff like that. So without getting into details, which I don't want to do, I'll just leave it at that. But that's pretty much the reason why. So just be aware that I'm just going to make it official because we've been having I've been trying to go with the 9:00 p.m. start time for the last, month or whatever, how long it's been. It's not working out for right now. So I think until from now and through probably March Madness, we'll stick with the 10 o'clock. We'll go back to 10:00 p.m. Eastern time, officially, so that you all know that's pretty much it. So, because it's just right now at this particular juncture, it's too hard to kind of with schedules and stuff to kind of make that happen. But just to kind of give you all a heads up on that. But anyway, Mike joins us. Mike, you're in the spotlight. How you doing?
I'm here.
You're here. After you gave me that strongly worded text, we'll talk more about that situation that happened tonight on SmackDown. I know there's a lot of people upset about a certain somebody coming, finally appearing on the show and then losing. We'll talk about that in a few minutes because I'm sure Mike would like to get some thoughts out about that. Anyway, that's what wrestling tease for you wrestling fans out there. So let's get down to business right now. Let's start with the Machado stuff because that is the big story of the day. So much of the last few weeks, obviously we had the Super Bowl but the NBA trade deadline and all the Anthony Davis drama and Kyrie Irving and all this other stuff was taking away from the Super Bowl. And then things kind of calmed down. The Super Bowl was over. The NBA kind of calmed down. The focus went to the All-Star game. And then you kind of go into that lull, like, okay, post-Super Bowl, now we're starting to talk about college basketball, right? Well, and you're thinking, well, not baseball, spring training, nobody cares right now. But then you remember, well, wait a minute, there's like almost 100 free agents still left on the market, much like last year, including the major free agents, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper. You could even throw Dallas Keuchel in there. You could throw Marvin Gonzalez in there, Craig Kimbrell. Big names still out there with at seemingly no end in sight. And then so that became the focus as spring training got underway late last week. And then all the talk of collusion, which has been brewing throughout the entire offseason, pretty much since the winter meetings ended. The talk of collusion, the talk of, No, there's going to be a strike because, the players are upset. They're not getting these deals, and free agency is taking forever. And we talked about this ad nauseum. So that was the focus. And, I was talking to somebody off the air about this, one of our fans. And they said this to me. I 100% agreed with. I said, at this point, this stuff's going to go down when you least expect it. Even though, there was a little bit of smoke over the last couple of days about Bryce Harper probably going to the Phillies, that there was so-called progression, if you will. And then over the last month, you've been hearing about a mystery team in on Manny Machado, but again, you've been hearing that for about a month, and not much had been going on. So, but that, you started to think, well, it's spring training, something's got to happen, but at the same time, your guard was still up. Like it's going to happen probably when you least expect it. It's going to come out of nowhere, even though you got some seeds being planted here and there. And that's exactly what happened today. All of a sudden today you hear Manny Machado signs with the San Diego Padres for 10 years and $300 million. So when all the talk of collusion and all the talk that players are not going to get these big contracts comes to a boiling point, one of the big free agents gets the contract that he wanted. That breaks the bank for being the highest sports contract of all time in American history. And now, because that happened, it's very likely that Bryce Harper is probably going to beat that within a few days, because it's probably going to happen within a few days, because you ain't going to want to wait much longer. Even J.D. Martinez last year, which was the premier free agent left at that point last year, signed, I think, on February 26th or something like that. So this is going to get done in the next week. Because we said that all along. Once one of them signs, the domino will fall. The other dominoes will fall. And then as soon as Bryce gets signed, then a lot of the other guys will start getting signed. So you went from, boy, these contracts aren't going to get this anymore. Manny and Bryce might have to sign. There was the talk about the White Sox deal about a month ago. 7 and 145, I think it was, right? That was the offer, or 175, sorry. That was on the table. He'd have to take that. Or, maybe him and Harper sign 1-year deals and come back and try this next year. All this, and then all the players that were whining and complaining, and for lack of a better word, part of my French, bitching. Whoa, this is unfair. This is, what do you say now? Because here's the thing. Well, we all sat here for the last 2 months, because really it's been the last 2 months that nothing's been going on, because after the winter meeting, things dried up, right? Well, we all been sitting here for the last 2 months thinking this is never going to happen. The market, the things have changed in baseball. The landscape has changed. The market has changed. Luxury tax threshold, all this stuff, right? Well, we've been doing that. And, these agents that represent Manny and Bryce, Boris for Bryce, Vazano for Manny, they've been playing their game of bait, because, they want to beat each other. They're competitive. The agents are competitive too. They don't want to be the one that gets the lower deal for their client. Well, all this has been going on. These guys have never broken from what they believed they were going to get. No matter how many people have doubted it, how much doubt's been out there, no matter how impossible it looked, they did not break. They didn't give in, because they could have. They could have. But they didn't. They knew that a team was going to be desperate enough to give them what they want. And Bryce is going to get it too. Because now, think about this for a second. The Phillies, who came into this offseason with an owner that was saying, we're going to spend stupid money. Well, they haven't spent stupid money. And one of their targets just came off the board. Now there's only one target left. So either they get desperate and throw as much money as they can possibly throw to Bryce Harper to seal the deal, because that's pretty much where it looks like he could go if he wants to win and get the money, right? Either they do that, or they lose out and get nothing. Because here's the thing, yeah, could they pivot and go, all right, we'll go sign a Marwin Gonzalez or a Dallas Keuchel or a Craig Kimbrell or whatever? Is that going to make the waves that people thought they were going to make? Is that going to be the same? When you say stupid money, that means Machado. That means Harper. That means Corbin, who signed early. It doesn't mean Craig Kimbrell. It doesn't mean Dallas Keuchel. So they're in a bind now because otherwise they come out with egg on their face. Then you got
honestly, but if you don't mind me interjecting,
no, go right ahead.
does it matter though if the Phillies don't get Harper because they don't spend the stupid money to get Harper? Because here's the thing with that I at least noticed of the Machado deal back when I was sitting at a Smoky Bones,
So that's good.
watching a little bit of Sports Center ahead of what I was doing trivia. I was watching the Manny Machado thing, and then I saw a really smart tweet. It was like Manny Machado is going to be here at Padre Stadium. The guy took a picture of the stadium. It's like I'm across the street from Padre Stadium, where Manny Machado is going to play for 10 years and won exactly 0 championships.
Yeah.
So, okay. The Padres have not exactly been setting the world on fire.
No.
And they have just handicapped themselves for the next 10 years with this massive contract for Manny Machado. That, honestly, they might be looking to unload in year 5 or 6. Let's be honest here. That's usually how some of these deals work. They'd be looking to unload this in year 5 or 6, and they realize, oh shit, he's not bringing us the success that we are looking for as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And if he continues having these clubhouse issues, well, they might be looking to unload it in year 2 or 3, ahead of when they would typically unload it due to age or due to, oh shit, we can't do anything because we spent an ass ton of money. So, okay, the Phillies, who have traditionally been a little bit more of a competitor than the Padres, are looking to spend crazy, stupid money. The Phillies must think they're on the cusp. Am I correct?
They were in the playoff race until late in September. Most people, yeah, they're a potential playoff team. Yeah.
So they're looking to spend crazy, stupid money to get Bryce Harper, who had some clubhouse issues and also has had some injury issues.
Correct.
So, but Bryce Harper is still out there looking for this crazy, stupid money.
He'll get it.
Now he might get it. But let's be honest here. If Bryce Harper continues to not play up to potential and be an asshole in the clubhouse and maybe get injured, well, the Phillies might be looking to unload that deal relatively earlier than the 10 years that he might get or the 11 years he might get with the $350 million, give or take.
Right.
Because it'll be about that. 350. So, okay. What's the point? They're looking to spend these crazy, stupid money. The agents want to give the most money for their things, but Machado and Harper, honestly, were the worst 2 guys to be the big free agents this year because they're surrounded in controversy.
Yep. I agree.
And great, Machado got his contract, but now he's going to go to San Diego, where it's a pitcher's ballpark mostly, I believe.
Generally it is.
I've been listening to you bitch and moan for the last God knows how many years. San Diego's generally a pitcher's ballpark, so he's already coming in at a bit of a disadvantage, and they're not going to be able to build a real competitive team around him. So great. You've just handicapped the Padres for the next 10 years.
And it's not just that deal. They did the same thing last year. They waited till late in the game and they threw a ton of money at Eric Hosmer, who isn't, look, for all I can say about Manny Machado is a superior talent.
Sure.
Okay. He's a platinum glove third baseman who could also play short. He's a great hitter again, for all the nonsense, other crap he gives you, he is a talented guy. Eric Hosmer, while a decent player, is nowhere near what Manny Machado is. And they threw, I forgot how much it was, but they threw the most money in last year's free agent class. It was a weak class last year. So that's why, and they got Will Myers. I think they got like 3 players between Hosmer and Machado at $50 million a year. And that's more than all the rest of the guys combined, I think.
So you've pretty much handicapped your entire team. And you got Manny Machado and whatever that other guy's name was, but
there's an opt out in Machado's deal after year 5. But here's the thing: he's not going to take it. You haven't seen guys taking the opt out because unless he can guarantee, because he'll be 31 at that point, right? Mm-hmm. Unless he can guarantee getting 5 years and $150 million based on the structure from somebody else, which at 31, who knows if you can? Maybe you've had some injuries, maybe your clubhouse issues and all the other stuff has become more of an issue than it already is, which is be saying a lot because it's already an issue. But you know what I mean? You have to be sure that you can guarantee that kind of money, which in the current marketplace at 31, when they're having trouble getting 10-year deals for 26-year-olds, I don't know. Doesn't seem right. So he's not going to opt out. He's going to stay put, which means what you said is going to happen. They're going to have to do what Seattle just did with Robinson Cano.
What do you know?
Or what Miami did with Giancarlo Stanton. We can't do this. We can't keep this guy. He's getting disgruntled. It's not just about the money anymore. He wants to go play for somebody else. He wants to go win.
But that's the thing. That's the thing with Manny Machado. He signed for the money. He's never going to win there.
Oh, God, no.
Bryce Harper, if he's serious about going to a team to win, he would have taken less money months ago and signed with somebody else.
Well, Go ahead. You want to know what's disturbing about Bryce Harper? Back in September, before he even was going to hit the market, because again, this has been building for years. This is the thing. All the fans built this up in their heads that these guys are going to break. At one point, they were thinking these guys were going to get $450 million. Because they're the first 2 talented superstars to hit free agency at such a young age. Usually these guys get locked up until they're 30, 31. They're hitting it at 26 in their right about in their prime. So this is why people thought they'd get this money. Bryce Harper was offered by the Nationals 10 years and $300 million, the same deal Manny just got by the Washington Nationals. Where was regarded, despite everything that happened, they thought he was a hero. You saw what he did at the home run derby. They loved him there. They did not want him to go. He thought, well, I'm going to be $400 million guy. Why would I take this deal? Now he can't get that deal back because the Nationals spent other money. Went out and got Corbin. They got other deals. That's where the problem is. Now he has he can go to the Phillies. I don't know what the Phillies offer is. I think it's not $300 million. It might be $250, maybe $240, something like that. Phillies been in on this since the beginning.
But it's not going to be crazy, stupid money.
No, but there's potential for him to win there.
Sure.
He could be a difference maker. They have a good young nucleus. They built themselves up. They've made some moves already this year. They got Andrew McCutchen. They got David Robertson. They got some guys there. They got some good pitching. They were in it last year. Bryce Harper could be that push to at least get him into the first round of the playoffs. And then you can maybe continue to build from there. So in that first 5 years that he's there, there's a potential they could win a championship.
Let's not go that far.
Well, there is. I mean, we get to the World Series. National League could be weak.
They might be able to get to the World Series, yes. But
Phillies are a lot closer than Phillies are closer than the Padres. Let's just be fair. So
yeah. No kidding.
And they've had they've been able to get there in the last 20 years. So, that's so. Yes, if you go to the Phillies, okay, you can win there. I can understand that. It's better than going to the White Sox, where they're probably at least another 3-4 years away. Like Manny's best deal for the longest time was from the White Sox, and he goes to the Padres because the Padres blew everybody away, and that's what they've been doing. They're spending this money now. The Padres have the best minor league system right now. So what they're banking on is, well, we got Manny Machado, we got Eric Hosmer, we got Will Myers, and we got this great group of young prospects. Okay, that's fine, but prospects don't always pan out. Not everybody's the Yankees, where every and the Cubs, where every prospect, or Astros. Those three teams, they got lucky. Almost every prospect worked out. Every single one worked out for them almost, right? And um, here's the other thing. One of the reasons why I think a lot of teams shied away from Manny and Bryce, particularly Manny, it was said that a lot of Dodger guys came out anonymously and said he was a terrible teammate, and he was not a guy that you want around young players. He doesn't hustle. He doesn't, he's got the ego. And if you're the top farm system in baseball, you're relying on a lot of prospects to come up and play the game the right way and help you win. Is signing Manny Machado going to help that?
No.
All these other guys stayed away from him for a reason. That's what I'm saying. All these fans that came down on the Yankees, came down on the Mets, why aren't they signing these guys? Why? If a competitive team, a team that's a World Series contender, who, look, let's be honest here. If you're a World Series contender like the Astros, the Red Sox, the Yankees, whatever, a guy like a Harper or Machado might be enough to put you over the top to win if you have a need, because you already got good players surrounding them. You're not you just it's a missing piece, right? If they stayed away from these guys, what does that tell you? It wasn't just one team. And the only one desperate enough to pay Manny what he really truly wanted was a team that's been stuck in mediocrity since 1998. Since Bruce Bochy left. And who is in consistently one of the weakest divisions in Major League Baseball. And they never can seem to finish anywhere closer than 10 games from first place. If it wasn't for the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, imagine how bad that division would be. Rockies once in a while do something. And they still can't compete. And we've seen the Padres over the last few years. They'll make a big free agent signing, a big train and get the headlines and maybe put a few butts in the seats in April. But by May, it's like you're already over it. And this is a big thing for baseball too. This is a bad thing for baseball too, in a way. Because here's the thing. They're already having a fit that their premier star, Mike Trout, is in Anaheim and stuck in broadcast hell because most of his games are on at 10 o'clock at night. Now one of your other stars, for better or worse, is stuck in San Diego and going to be playing most of his games at 10 o'clock at night.
Ain't that something?
And God help them if San Diego decides, hey, let's get another $300 million contract and offers Bryce Harper that same deal.
They won't.
They won't, but I'm just saying, then you got three stars out there. And I said this before and I'll say it again. And you made a great point. These two guys are not who you break the bank for. These are the two worst guys to get these kind of, be up for these kind of contracts. Because here's the thing. Next year, you got a guy. Now, he might stay with the Rockies. I think they re-upped him for 1 year, but they might try to get an extension. Nolan Arenado from Colorado. Great teammate, great guy, Gold Glove third base, great hitter. Even outside of Coors, he's a pretty good hitter. Is he a guy you break the bank for? Maybe. But he never had, you don't have any issues with him. So you might give him more of a chance. The year after that, assuming he doesn't get an extension before that, which is entirely possible, Mike Trout hits the market. I think he'll be 27, 28 at that point.
Sure.
Okay. Great teammate, great guy. That's who you break the bank for. Because he's a guy that even if he doesn't hit for home runs later in his career, he's still going to hit for average. He's still going to be able to steal bases for you. He hasn't been injury prone. That's a guy you break the bank for. You break the bank for those guys. The guys don't have red flags all over the place. The guys that you can just tell by the way they play the game. There's a fundamental difference. And you said it. The Padres are going to regret this. They're going to be in year 6 or 7 because they're probably going to wait till after the opt-out, I would imagine, unless something drastic happens. He's going to be an irrelevancy. He's going to be traded, and he's going to be traded when he's in his decline years to a team where maybe they get one solid, decent, good year out of him. I mean, the one thing you can say about Stanton is he got traded to the Yankees before his decline because Miami was just starting a fire sale, and they wanted to make that move. But usually that's not what happened. Look, Cano got traded at what? He's 36 now. Yeah, he's still a good hitter, but he's not the same. Manny Machado is not going to be the same player at 31 as he is now. Bryce Harper, assuming he gets, a similar deal, which I think he will. If he gets traded in year 5 or 6, he ain't going to be the same player. He's already a guy that has issues.
He's already a guy that has injuries. Let's call that how it is.
Are these guys talented? Yes. Are these guys you break the bank for? No. And I've said that since day one. Now, did I think the Yankees should sign either one? I was edging more towards Harper only because he's a left-handed bat in Yankee Stadium. I thought that there was a need there, but it wasn't a necessity. You have enough outfielders as it is. Really, if you think about it, none of the big teams that are in contention for a World Series needed him. Or Machado. None of them did.
Nor did none of them make an offer to either one of them.
Yankees had that one dinner, that one time they talked parameters, but that was about it. They didn't even invite Bryce Harper. So, yeah. And the Red Sox hate Machado because there's always been a history there. Astros didn't play in either one of those sandboxes. So, yeah. Dodgers had a mild interest in Harper, I think, for a little bit. And of course, the Dodgers had Machado in the World Series match. They saw enough. So, yeah, you're right. I think the Cubs wanted Harper. They don't have the money. They got to pay Chris Bryant. They got to pay Anthony Rizzo. They don't have the money. So, and look, we'll talk a lot about the threshold and strikes and how maybe baseball needs a salary cap, a seal of a floor because of the threshold. We can talk about that later on. Right now, it's about Machado. To me, it's a bad deal. He's going to hate it. I look forward to that press conference when he's going to try to fake it and be like, oh, I see a team on the rise and they got a good farm. So it's all going to be the biggest lump of BS. We all know why he did this. The team he wanted to go to was not ponying up the cash. And eventually it was just, you know what? Let me go with the cash and hope that maybe this turns into something. I mean, look, San Diego's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be. But unless they win a lot of games, then the stands are going to be empty. First couple of weeks they won't be. But the stands are going to be empty. And you're not going to have nearly the amount of fame that you had playing East Coast baseball because your games are on too late.
Or LA baseball.
Or LA baseball because it's LA and they broadcast nationally a lot. So, yeah. And look, maybe this is good for a guy like him. San Diego's very laid back and he don't like the hustle, so
He does not like the hustle, no.
No, he's been very adamant about that, so. And the media is very, less not nearly as hard on you. So it's probably a good fit for him, I guess. From that standpoint. We'll see what happens with Harper. Like I said, I think Harper's going to be signed pretty quick. I don't think it'll be tomorrow. Although there was talk, on Sunday, it looked like it might have happened on Sunday, but for a while there. But it's going to be interesting to see, the White Sox and the Phillies are where it's going to be interesting because they're the two teams that, kind of still were in it on Machado, it looked like. And they've both been in it on Harper, too. I think the White Sox like Machado better than Harper. That's why they signed his brother-in-law and his friend, which you sign those guys and you still don't get them. That's kind of funny. It's bad business, really. But I don't really think they were in love with the idea of Harper. The Cubs wanted Harper, they own the money. So it's gonna be interesting to see what the White Sox do here, and it's gonna be interesting to see what the Phillies are probably gonna come right at him and go, okay, fine, here's 300 million. It's gonna be enough. We're not gonna beat that contract. We're just gonna equal it, and then see what he says. Because if they were trying to sign both of them, it would have equaled over that price anyway overall. So if you only have to sign one of them now, you probably figure you can go there. And not, not really be too hamstrung because you only have that one mega contract. Maybe that's going to happen. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think it's probably where he's going to go, unless something out of left field happens. Again, who knows what the Padres will do, but I would imagine they're going to use that farm system to start trading for some pitching, though, if they want to be competitive. But don't even know where they go for that. Giants ain't going to help them, that's for sure. And that would be where the pitching might be. So yeah, big news. Obviously, now you'd expect some of these signings. Again, I think I would say Harper within the week. And then in between, you'll have some of the Keuchels and I don't know where Craig Kimbrell is going to go. I think guy thinks he's going to get paid ridiculous amounts of money to be a below average closer. I don't see it, but we'll see what happens. So I expect the free agent market to kind of pick up now, and I think by March 1st, I think by next Friday, pretty much all the big guys will be signed. You'll just be seeing a few of the middling guys kind of getting picked up over the course of March. And I think everybody will be in place by the end of spring training, but that's going to make an impact. We saw that last year. These late signings, a lot of these guys just weren't ready, come April, because they started spring training late because they didn't get signed till late. So it's going to have an impact. I don't know if it'll have too much of an impact on Machado and if Harper signs next week because they only have a week off, but some of these other guys, depending on how late it goes, could have a pretty big one. So Manny Machado goes to the Padres. Good times. Good times. All right, so we covered the Machado thing. Let's jump into some college basketball here, which is what we should be talking about this time of year because we are in the thick of it. We didn't do a bubble watch last week. We did our first bubble watch the week before. And since then, the herd has thinned a little bit, I would say, in terms of where we're at. This week, obviously, is a huge week for college basketball. We'll get into the rivalries. You have two big games tomorrow. First off, let's look back at this past week because there was some significant movement there. Very significant movement there. You had, let me see, I'm just pulling up my notes here because I was on the Machado stuff for a little bit here. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, the Kentucky-Tennessee win on Saturday, and then you had the LSU upset over Kentucky last week, which was controversial for obvious reasons. So LSU probably sealed their deal with that Kentucky win, no matter how controversial it was. Kentucky, in my mind, probably is the number one seed right now out of the SEC. Tennessee can get it back if they equal that out. But Kentucky, I think, will get the edge because obviously they won the head-to-head. I'm trying to think of what else happened over the last.
Another game coming up next week.
Right. So if Tennessee wins that, then I think it's pretty much whoever wins the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
Which you figure one of them would win, because I can't imagine anybody else doing. I mean, LSU might stand at somewhat of a chance, but they need some help from the officials to do that, I guess. Because that's why they won. Villanova had a little bit of a rough week. They blew that game against St. John's. Which, look, I'm gonna be honest, Villanova this year, it's gonna be one of those things where if they're hot shooting, they're gonna win. If they're not, they're not. Duke had that great comeback against Louisville last week from 20 down, which was a very bad job by Louisville. They just didn't control the possession, didn't control the ball. Very, very sloppy. Michigan had that tough loss against Penn State. Michigan State had a good win against Wisconsin, and then Ohio State, who was just. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know about Ohio State anymore. It just sucks for Syracuse because that was a quality win early, but boy, they just have fallen off a cliff in the last last month or so. So that's a few highlights. I don't want to go too deep into it because I want to focus more on the, on the team, the bubble, and such. So before I preview what's coming up this week, because again, big games tomorrow, Saturday. Very, very, very big games. Of course, again, as I said 2 weeks ago when we started this bubble watch journey in our bracket bugle, remember you got the system now with the quadrant 1 wins, the quadrant 2 wins. It's not so much about RPIs and strength of schedules anymore. So we don't really mention those numbers too much anymore. It's about wins and losses and home versus away and that kind of thing. So we'll start off like we did a couple weeks ago in the ACC and be very quick about it because I think at this point right now, it's pretty obvious that they got some teams. Obviously, they got some teams solidly in Virginia, Duke, Carolina, and Louisville. Virginia Tech and Florida State are both in. Most people think Syracuse is in, but they could play their way out. Syracuse has a big week here. They got Louisville tomorrow at home, and they got Duke at home. If they win one of those 2 games, and then I think they get Wake and Clemson at the end of the season, one on the road and one away, one at home. If they win both those games and win one of these next 2, I think they're perfectly fine. Obviously, if they win both games this week, they're in very good shape. They're solidly in. So they're not too tenuous, but they could, if they don't win a single game and let's just say this: if they lose to Louisville, they lose to Duke, they lose to North Carolina, they lose to Virginia. They got a lot of quality wins on the board here. They can get. Okay. If they lose all those games and all they do is win the Wake and Clemson games, they're going to probably need to win at least a game in the ACC tournament, and then it might even still be 10. It's a weak bubble this year, but still, you don't want to play that because then you're playing your way out, and then you're putting yourself in the situation that you were in last year. Even with a good road record, which they have, you don't want to do that. And then as you look at it, NC State and Clemson right now, NC State's really picked it up. They lost to Duke, though. That hurt them. They got the Syracuse win. They got a couple games coming up. Florida State in early part of March will probably be a must-win for them. Because I think they're going to need a quality win because they got 2 games against Boston College and 1 against Wake Forest and Georgia Tech left. They got to win all those games. I think they got to get Florida State. Otherwise, I don't know. It might be enough. I think they'd probably end up getting in, but they'd be very vulnerable to getting taken out. I think by a rising bubble team somewhere else. Clemson, I think, has got to have about 2 good weeks to get back into play. They're 5-7 in the conference right now. Got a couple of home games against Florida State and North Carolina, and a couple of road games against Pittsburgh and Notre Dame, which they got to win both those. Can't afford a loss there, otherwise they're done. And I think they probably have to win at least one of those 2 games against Florida State and Carolina. So right now, I'd say things are not looking good, but stranger things have happened. The way they played, I just don't have a lot of confidence in them. So right now, I would say this, as far as the only 2 teams that really have work to do at this point are NC State and Clemson. NC State, I think, I'd probably end up sneaking in. Clemson, I just don't see it. Mike, you have any thoughts on the ACC?
Do I have thoughts about the ACC?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Duke will be the 1 seed because LOL Duke. Even if Duke has 15 losses, they're the 1 seed because LOL Duke. That's pretty much my only thoughts about the ACC. If Syracuse doesn't shit the bed this week, they're in.
Yeah.
And well, when you're in a massive scoring slump and your 3 best scorers aren't scoring, well, you're bound to shit the bed all over the bed and off the bed.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech should probably also going through a bit of a scoring slump. It looks like, in Florida State, who should definitely be in, but and as for NC State, they beat Syracuse. Sure, they beat Syracuse, so they're probably going to get in. And Clemson, speaking of shitting the bed, is definitely out. There you go.
And I'm just going to update Clemson here. They're down 11 against Florida State with a minute and 54 left, so they're going to lose that game. So I don't think Clemson's going to make it unless they win the tournament.
Yep.
That's their one quality win. So.
Yep.
So Big 12. As we move on, Kansas, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Kansas State are all in. Baylor, Texas, TCU, and Oklahoma are the teams that we're looking at for bubble. Here's the thing, and you know how I feel about this. We have seen teams in recent years get in with an under 500 conference record, but I think with the bubble being what it is, I think 500 is got to be at least your bare minimum. Now Baylor did beat Iowa State tonight, which I think helps them a lot. I think Baylor's probably in right now, so I wouldn't worry too much about them. Texas, I think, has a decent profile. They beat North Carolina on neutral floor. So I think Texas is probably right on that line. TCU, I don't think is in play right now. I think they can play their way into play. They're 5, but they're 5-8. And the Big 12's not that good this year. I mean, and again, Iowa State is become what we used to call West Virginia in the Big East, the quality win of everybody. I mean, I would say TCU right now, they have a lot of potential here. They have Texas Tech, Kansas State, and another game with Iowa State still left. I think they have to win a couple of those, and then maybe stay around 500 in conference, and then we'll talk. But I don't see. I know some people have in the field right now, but I really don't see. And Oklahoma, I think, needs a lot. I think right now they're playing themselves out of it. I mean, they're what, 4-9 in the Big 12. I mean, that's they got to win a couple games here, and there's no way they would get to 500. So I think they have to make a run in the Big 12 tournament even to get in the conversation. So right now, I would say this: Texas is probably in, Baylor is probably in. Baylor's in. Baylor's in. Texas is probably in. TCU is like probably a first 4 out, and Oklahoma's out. That's where I would see this. Mike, any Big 12 thoughts?
If I wasted thoughts on the Big 12, then I would have more time on my hands than I do. But I choose not to think about the Big 12 because, well,
Yeah.
But if I had to spare a thought about the Big 12, oh, look, it's Kansas, then everybody else.
Yeah.
And here we are again at the same point every year. Why do we even bother talking about the Big 12? Here we are in February. It's almost March, and oh, look at this. It's Kansas and everybody else in this shit fest of a conference. By the way, Iowa State, they are like Pittsburgh and like Baylor. Well, they're like Pittsburgh. Never, ever, ever pick them. If they're going to be in the tournament, don't pick them past the first weekend. There's your quality stats. Even if they're the 1 seed, and they're not, but even if they are, they're going to lose that 16 and fuck your bracket. Oh yeah, and Oklahoma. Yeah, and Oklahoma is certainly not.
No.
Why is Oklahoma on this line?
Very weak bubble. Very weak bubble.
Yeah. The
Very
bubble.
weak.
We say this every year. It's a weak bubble. It's a weak
Yeah.
bubble.
Oh, this is a
I'm
bad
sorry,
bubble.
but the Big 12 is not a strong conference this year, and you're 4-9.
Yeah.
It doesn't no. It's a weak bubble every year. It's a weak bubble. I'm not mocking you. It's a weak bubble every. We say this every goddamn year.
It gets weaker and weaker, though.
It doesn't fucking get weaker and weaker. I
It
apologize
does.
for swearing. It doesn't. It really doesn't. The bubble pretty much stays the same every year. It's just the teams rotate out. Oklahoma has defeated one quality opponent this year. They beat TCU. Boo fucking who? TCU's on the bubble. But do you know what's the difference between Oklahoma and TCU? TCU is not 4-9 in the conference. No. TCU is not 4-9. TCU is 5-8. So why are we talking about them? So you know what? TCU is not even on the next 4 out until TCU gets to 800. Until TCU gets to 500 in their fucking conference. I'm not wasting another fucking thought on them. Same thing for Oklahoma. They're out. Period.
You know what I think is funny is when you look at the Big East, because we're going to move on. Obviously, Marquette's a lock, but when you see Villanova as it should be in, Villanova's a lock.
Yeah.
I don't even know why that's even. And here's another team that's a lock. St. John's is a lock.
Yeah.
How are they not? They're 3-1 against Marquette and Villanova.
I'm going to be quite honest with you, if a team like St. John's is kept out on Selection Sunday, but shit shows like TCU and Oklahoma do end up getting in, then there is a major issue with the selection committee.
They are.
You're going to need to reevaluate everything because the Big East is a far superior conference than Kansas and the Kansettes.
St. John Marquette is top 10. Villanova has been right around the top 15 all year.
Yeah, they're probably a top 30 team this
and
year.
They're 3-1 against them, and we're even talking about work left to do.
No, they're not.
I know they're 7-6 in the Big East, but Jesus, come on. And let's see, Seton Hall won against Kentucky on a neutral floor. They won on the road at Maryland, won at Creighton. I think Seton Hall's in too.
Yeah, Seton Hall's in.
Butler's not yet, but
no. Butler's got some remaining games left. And but Butler is 6-7. Until Butler gets above 500, I don't want to talk about Butler either.
Right. And they have potential. They have road games remaining at Marquette and Villanova.
It's not as embarrassing as having fucking TCU and Oklahoma, and I apologize for swearing. But it's not as embarrassing as listening, oh, well, they're on the bubble. It's a weak bubble this year. They're 4-9.
Butler has to
list a 4-9 team.
Butler has to win one of those two games and probably get to maybe the semifinal of the Big East tournament.
Sure.
But still a better profile than the two than Oklahoma. For sure. So, Big Ten, which is, look, I know how we feel about the Big Ten, but it's a better conference than the Big 12 this year, just by default.
Oh, what do you mean the Kansas and the Rockets are not that great this year?
Yeah. Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, Wisconsin, Maryland and Iowa in two. I'm not even going to talk about them.
Maryland's
Ohio State.
Ranked.
Yeah, that's why I understand why they're
ranked.
When you're ranked top 25 in the end of February, I don't know why we're even talking about you.
You're right.
Okay, so let's see. Ohio State is a conundrum because they're 6-8 in conference. So you gotta get to 500 there. We've been talking about that all night.
Get to 500 or else we'll talk. Otherwise,
yeah, Ohio State. I think Ohio State's on that cut line because they had such a good start. So they're probably on the cut line right now. They have to win some games. Minnesota, again, it's kind of the same thing as what happened at Ohio State. They started out strong, and then they have to win some games too. Michigan's coming in. They got Michigan. They got Wisconsin. Yeah, they got to win some games. Indiana, I think, is out. They lost tonight. They had an opportunity to win tonight. They didn't. They have victories against Marquette and Louisville, but then again, you're what 4-10 the Big East. Oh God, I mean you have two good wins, but you're 4-10 the Big Ten. I don't care how much better the Big Ten is this year. Jesus, you can't.
Who was 4-10 in the Big Ten?
Indiana,
Oh, well, why are we talking about Indiana?
because they beat Marquette and they beat Louisville.
So
Yeah, they're going to have
your
to make a
4-10
run.
implies you couldn't beat anybody else.
Like I said, I don't care how deep your conference is. I don't care if it's better this year or not. You can't be 4-10 in a conference and make the tournament. I'm sorry.
Nope.
Not unless you win your tournament.
You might end up in the CBI. 4-10.
When all is said and done, you know, we talked about the Big 12, we talked about the Big East, and that. I think, like I said, I talked about the Big 12, but Big East, I think you'll see all three of those teams get in. I think in the Big 10, you'll see Ohio State get in, and maybe Minnesota will sneak in. Maybe. We can really skip. I'll make the Pac-12 really quick. Washington's going to get in. Unless somebody and even if somebody and the only other way somebody else gets in is if somebody steals a bid from the tournament. I don't believe in Arizona State. You know, there's a game at Oregon that could potentially be a quad one because it's on the road. They won at home against Kansas and Washington, won in Vegas against Mississippi State. Again, you know, maybe they can play their way in Arizona State, but other than that, unless somebody wins the Pac-12 tournament other than Washington, I really don't think anybody else is going to get in. It's a bad conference.
Oregon State and Arizona State will probably get in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arizona State might have sneaking in, but I still don't buy into it.
Look, I'm not saying I buy into it either, but when we're discussing teams that have sub 500 records,
yeah,
you got a long fucking shot.
And you have Arizona
State, and I'm going to throw Oregon State in there too, even though Oregon State's not particularly impressive.
Yeah,
Washington's definitely in, and then Arizona State and Oregon State will probably get in as well.
Okay, all right, fair enough. You're right. If we're including teams for sub 500 conference records, we got to look at Arizona State
and Oregon State.
Now in Oregon State.
And look, I am not pleased about including more than one Pac-12 team. I am certainly not pleased about that. And when I pull a fucking Oregon State's record, because the only reason I'm spending time on Oregon State, the Beavers, is because they're not listed here. They're not. Simply because they're not.
Yeah.
But they beat Old Dominion, who typically is on this list. They beat Penn, who is going to compete for the Harvard, the Ivy. They beat Long Beach State, who could compete in their conference. I'm really stretching here. They got their ass kicked. Well, they lost to Texas A&M, but they didn't shit the bed at Pepperdine. Oh God, why am I? They beat Oregon. They beat Oregon. Sorry, I'm looking at scores here because I'm catching up here. They beat Utah, but who cares? Okay, so you know what? I'm taking my Oregon State pick back. They'll probably include them because they have a winning record, but shit, they have not beaten anybody. They haven't beaten anybody. They are the St. Mary's of the Pac-12.
Oh, that's not good.
They haven't beaten anybody. Sorry, I take it back. Their best one's Utah. Their best one's Utah. Arizona State and Washington are bust. Oregon State's got to beat somebody else good.
The SEC is a little bit easier to call because most of these teams probably are in at this point. Tennessee, Kentucky, LSU are all locks. Mississippi State, Auburn, Ole Miss are probably all in too. Probably based on the way the bubble is going. Alabama and Florida. Probably not in right now.
Florida's everybody's quality win at this moment in time.
I mean, Alabama would probably get in today, but I think they're going to end up playing their way out. There's just not enough of a profile there to sustain, and they're very inconsistent. Florida is. I mean, they're 500 in their conference, so it's the only thing that's kind of keeping them afloat because SEC is a decent conference this year. I mean, they could beat LSU. They got 11 losses. I just don't see Florida getting in unless they win the SEC tournament. Because they just, again, I think maybe one of these two teams will get in. Maybe if anybody will be out, it'll be Alabama. But I mean, I can't see Florida getting in without making a big run. I can't see it. There's just not enough of a profile there. So it's pretty easy calling it SEC right now. Alabama will be in today, and I think they'll probably end up sneaking in. Florida's probably out unless they make a big run to the SEC tournament. That's pretty self-explanatory. American.
Houston and Cincinnati. Let's move on.
Yeah, UCF and Temple have very weird profiles. I mean, they got games against Cincinnati and Houston left. They got to win at least one of those before we can start really pushing them. And Temple, I mean, they might be in if the tournament started today, but they're very tenuous. They got to at least win, probably get into maybe like 2 games in their conference tournament before we can even, I think, probably even consider them. Other than that, Buffalo will get in whether they win their tournament or not. Gonzaga and Nevada are both in. Wofford, VCU, Lipscomb, Utah State, Belmont, Davidson. I think Belmont and Wofford have the best cases if they don't win their conference tournaments to get in. I think. So I think those. I mean, I think they win their conference tournament anyway. Mm-hmm. But I think they'd get in. I think they'd get in on their own. VCU probably will, but they'll probably win their conference as well. The other ones, I really don't know. I don't think Utah State would. I'd stick that people. I mean, well, because they win their conference, they're in. But again, if they don't win their conference, I don't see them getting in. Same thing with Lipscomb. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Nice to see St. Mary's not on the list this year, though. You know, so the herd's been thinned a little bit. That's where we stand right now. We're already today's the 19th. So next week when we talk to you, will be the 26th. We'll only be 2 weeks, less than 3 weeks out of Selection Sunday. So starting next week, you'll start to see this really kind of thin out a little bit, and you'll be able to kind of tell a little bit better. It's usually right around then that you start to get an idea of like, okay, you know, which teams really have a chance, because some of these teams, like if you're 4-10 in your conference, unless you go deep into your conference, or you don't have a chance in hell. I'm sorry. I don't care how good your conference is. So, you know, you're going to start to thin this herd a little bit, even more so over the next probably 10 days or so. And as far as the 1 seeds go, you know, since we said enough about the bubble teams, I know that, again, we're still being more general, but it gets more specific as you go along, because then you're really starting to compare profiles because you don't have that many teams left to consider. A lot of the other teams have either locked up space, you know, teams will lock things up, and then you'll have teams that fall off completely, and then you'll be left with that. Was it like usually like 10 to 12 teams that you really truly consider, and that's when you can have some fun if they really go deep into it. So that happens as you go along. Once you get to the last 10 days before Selection Sunday, that's when you can really kind of get into it. But 1 seeds are pretty easy at this point. Duke's a lock for 1. It's either going to be Kentucky or Tennessee for another. Depends on how it all plays out here. Right now it'd be Kentucky, but it could easily be Tennessee. Gonzaga is going to get 1. They shouldn't, but they are. So you're looking at one more 1 seed, which could go to a Virginia. Virginia's probably the favorite for it right now. Could go to a Michigan State. I don't see 2 teams from any particular conference getting it. Well, I mean, ACC could get 2, but other than that, I don't see 2 SEC teams getting 1 seeds. The only chance a conference has of getting 2 1 seeds is the ACC. Because you can see Virginia getting, you can see Carolina playing their way into 1. But like I said, it's that second one, that fourth 1 seed still up for grabs right now, I think. So another ACC team, Virginia, North Carolina. You could see Michigan State getting it. You could even see a Big East team sneaking up like Villanova or Marquette getting it, depending on how it falls. So that's where you're at with the 1 seeds right now. So I mentioned this earlier. Big games over the next week. Very, 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 very big games. I talked about some of the big games tonight already. That took place. Purdue beat Marquette 48-46. Maryland beat Iowa 66-65. Florida State beat Clemson 77-64. Baylor beat Iowa State 73-69. Tamale got Villanova at Georgetown. Louisville at Syracuse. Duke. North Carolina at Duke. Butler at Marquette. Those are among the big games tomorrow night. So some big ones tomorrow. Some pretty seismic shift kind of games tomorrow. Michigan at Minnesota on Thursday. Let's see what else there is. Friday's nothing. 23rd. Saturday's a big day. Always is. Virginia at Louisville. Tennessee at LSU. Marquette at Providence. Auburn at Kentucky. Iowa State at TCU. Ohio State at Maryland. Florida State at North Carolina. Duke at Syracuse. So big games on Saturday. Very big games on Saturday. Sunday, Villanova at Xavier. It's a good game. Michigan State at Michigan. So a couple good ones there. Big Monday has some good ones too. No, not really. That's really one. Well, 2. Oklahoma at Iowa State and Kansas State at Kansas. So some good Big 12 action there. And then you got on Tuesday next week, Duke at Virginia Tech, Iowa at Ohio State. Wisconsin, Indiana. So a big week of action. So we should have some very good ideas on some teams by the time we come back here and do this again next Tuesday. Some very big games that could really change the landscape of things over the next week. So make sure you check some of these games out. They're going to be really, really good. We've got a lot of good rivalries on tap this week for rivalry week. So, all right. So Bubble Watch, Bracket Bugle return next week. I said I'd touch on a few other things really quick, and I will. First, the golf, the Pebble Beach. Phil Mickelson won. Good for him. Last year that was probably one of the sticking points of the PGA Tour. He had a good year from Tiger. Jordan showed some signs. Rory showed some signs. But Phil didn't do so well. Well, now Phil's playing well. So we can get Tiger, Phil, Jordan, Rory all playing well. Some of these other young players, you have yourself a very good golf season coming. So it's always a good sign. It was a great tournament. Pebble Beach is always a great tournament, great venue. So that's a good sign for the PGA. That's all I can really say about that. The NBA All-Star Weekend took place. It was a great event. It was nice to have the focus be on something other than Anthony Davis and trade deadlines. But yeah, it was good. It always is a good event. Always a good event. Very fun. The kid from Victor Diallo from Oklahoma City put on a show. The 3-point thing competition was great. The skills thing was a little bit boring, but celebrity game was terrible. They just didn't have enough actual celebrities. Rising Star game was fun. All-Star game on Sunday was very good. I love what they did with Wade and Dirk. They had some good moments there in that game. Durant, the MVP, he deserved it. So that was a good event. Last week you saw so great on the NBA there. You saw Dale Demps of the New Orleans Pelicans GM lose his job last week. Obviously, he's going to be more known for the deals that he didn't make. The Chris Paul deal that got squashed by David Stern a couple years back. And then, of course, the Anthony Davis deal to the Lakers that didn't happen this year. A lot of people just thought he was a terrible GM, and he probably was. But still, he's a kind of a casualty of Anthony Davis's push for a trade. So we'll see how that impacts things going forward. But that was obviously a big piece of news last week. It was funny, too. There was a story last week about Adam Silver and how a lot of NFL owners think he should be the commissioner of the NFL, too, because he's so great at relating to players and relating to owners and knowing how to smooth things over. And we've always said that Adam Silver's best commissioner in professional sports. We've said that he would be, and he has been. You know, a lot of the other leagues can learn from having a commissioner like him. He listens. He's proactive. He gets to things before they even become an issue. Look, the NFL has the biggest issue because they have a commissioner that thinks he's essentially God. He just doesn't understand. He's not relatable at all. He's full of himself. He, makes it all about him. But I'm not surprised that other sports are starting to look at Adam Silver and go, that's the gold standard for what you want in a commissioner, because he is. So yeah, that's a couple things I wanted to just bring up. I didn't put them in the show description, but a couple of you asked about some of these things, so I figured I'd just throw them out there really quickly and in succession. And I wanted to be quick because we got wrestling to do, and we don't want to go too late here. So let's get to that wrestling now. Obviously, we had the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view on Sunday, which we had to preview well ahead of time because of the circumstances last week. So many ways people might have forgotten about what happened if you didn't watch it. And it was an okay pay-per-view. It had some good moments, some good matches. Obviously, it's going to be highlighted by Becky going crazy on Ronda and Charlotte in a segment that, was unfortunate because it sucked for Ruby Riott that, that's all she got. But then they kind of gave her a match on Raw to make up for it, but still, it sucked. But the Elimination Chamber match with Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan at the end was amazing. The women's tag match at the beginning was a nice moment, too. All in all, it ended up being a very solid pay-per-view. The Rumble was very solid as well. So they've had some good pay-per-views here. And then you had the fallout on Raw and SmackDown. Raw decided to do something really different. You heard all day that they were going to do something different with Raw. They wanted creative to think outside the box, and they did. They brought up all this NXT talent. It was so interesting how they handled the NXT talent last night versus how they've been handling a lot of talent before that. Like when they brought up like guys like EC3 and Nikki Cross and such, how they kind of debuted them a lot in backstage segments and kind of very almost subtly. And versus what they did last night, which is get all those guys in like Aleister Black and Gargano and Ciampa into matches. And they did the same. They did that to them on SmackDown tonight too. It's like they like, okay, that what we did last month didn't work. Let's do this differently, and it worked out much better. Even though they had a dead crowd last night, that crowd didn't deserve that. What they did last night, because I thought Raw was very good last night. A lot of progression. They gave Ruby Riott the match she should have gotten at the pay-per-view. Some stuff with Ambrose that was kind of weird, but it is what it is. And all in all, I thought it was a fairly good Raw last night. And SmackDown tonight had some weird things. I don't like what they did with but that's typical WWE, what they did with Asuka. Well, we have to set up a match. Oh, well, she has to, let's do some kind of screw job thing and have, the person we want to have the match at Fastlane pin her. And I'm not surprised with Mandy Rose. She's getting a big push, and I just didn't like the way they chose to do it. The whole eye injury thing, I don't know. I would have liked Sonya Deville to be more of a presence there to make that work. But whatever. Asuka will probably retain, and she'll get a real opponent at WrestleMania.
Probably retain is what concerns me, but they just put her over Becky Lynch, so maybe they will.
Well, I think here's the thing: Mandy Rose is a pet project for Vince.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, Mandy Rose isn't ready yet.
Lacey Evans is another one that they're going to be pushing, and there was talk that was Asuka's WrestleMania, which I'll talk about in a minute. But that doesn't look like the case anymore. But you know what? Look, well, it is what it is. I mean, they did some good things with Miz and Shane tonight, which set up the rematch, which is probably what they're going to do the official split. the ending match, the main event match with Bryan, Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, um, Kofi
Kofi,
Kingston, Kofi,
Joe.
Joe. Was a great match. Orton was in there too. Great match. Kofi gets the fast lane match, which I think you said would probably happen.
Yep.
And that's fine. Now, what happens there is going to be curious to me because we'll talk about this in a minute. It's been said all day. No matter what happens at Fastlane, Kofi's not winning, and he's not going to get another chance at this at least prior to WrestleMania. So Daniel Bryan's WrestleMania match is not Kofi Kingston. So we'll see what happens there. But as far as SmackDown goes, I thought SmackDown did a great job tonight. I
The
don't
crowd
know,
was better for sure.
much better, and they gave us a Ciampa Gargano versus the Bar match.
Now, yeah, so Ciampa and Gargano versus the Bar has been interesting, and it was it was more of a fluke win tonight than it was last night. They had last night, on Raw. Ciampa and Gargano had a decisive win over the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Revival. It was a decisive win.
Yeah.
They got lucky essentially against the Bar tonight. So on the tag team hierarchy, Raw Tag Champs, the Revival are down around the middle, and the Bar higher up. Just so we're clear here.
Mm-hmm.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
But they brought up four of NXT's biggest stars to tour the main roster.
They've done
a test run.
They've done a better job with these guys in the last group, though.
Oh, for sure. Well, EC3 is kind of in purgatory. Lacey Evans and Heavy Machinery are appearing on things. And Nikki Cross is disappeared again.
Meanwhile, Gargano and Ciampa and Aleister Black are winning matches.
Gargano and Ciampa had a good match against the Revival last night and had a good match against the Bar tonight, from what I understand, from what I read. Aleister Black had a decent match last night with Elias, but he had a very competitive match with Andrade Cien Almas, and they fucking went out there and killed it.
Mm.
One of the best matches of the last several days was Andrade versus Black. They're very familiar with each other. They've wrestled each other well, and they went out and had a great match. And then Ricochet wrestled Eric Young, and then he teamed with Finn Balor last night against Lashley and Rush. Things happen.
Yeah.
It happens. So they treated these guys, and from what I guess, it was kind of like a tour. It didn't seem like it was going to be a permanent thing. Especially since Ciampa and Gargano they've got major programs of brewing back down in NXT. I think Black will be more permanent.
Yeah, he's been on the list to call for a while. I also want to keep an eye on Sheamus. There was an ugly spot in the match on Ciampa where Sheamus kind of looked like it could have been something. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I'll let you, Mike, if you get a chance to look it up, you'll see what I mean. You probably would see the GIF around. It's not it's pretty ugly. It's like a backbreaker type thing. I'm trying to remember what exactly it was
Did you get it with Project Ciampa?
If that's what you call it. I'm not familiar as much with Ciampa's work as you are, but
was it like
it was a knee to the back.
Well, okay, but was it set up by a move or something?
I didn't see the beginning. I caught the footage I saw. I just got like the back end of it. All I saw was the knee to the back, and then he went down, and Sheamus was like writhing in pain on his back, and then even Ciampa looked like he took some of the heat on that. So, because I know there was some talk, there was some people saying, well, like, oh my God, that looked bad for Sheamus. So have to keep an eye on that one, especially if it's spinal stenosis.
Sheamus is a guy WWE protects.
Yeah. So there's something to keep an eye on there.
Oh, I'm reading it now. Ciampa elbows his way out of the right noise. He gets a sunset flip powerbomb up, but on top of his damn knee, and that was ugly. So
Yeah.
Sheamus took a really bad bump to the back, and Sheamus has got those neck and spine issues.
Right. So that's something to keep an eye on.
He's got the stenosis, and that's why. Well, it's one of the reasons why the bar's been going on as long as it has. But
Hopefully it's all right.
yeah, absolutely.
So, any other thoughts you want to contribute on the Chamber and Raw last night or SmackDown?
All right, since you gave your thoughts, I'm going to run through everything pretty quickly on my end as you shake your camera.
I knocked. Sorry.
Nice job, champ. So Elimination Chamber was fine. The Raw, the women's tag team chamber match it started off kind of rough. The Iconics were great. Mandy and Carmella getting eliminated early makes a lot of fucking sense. They got out Nia and Tamina, and while it was rough going early, Sasha and Bayley and Sonya and Mandy really did put together a good ending there. And I love how in the end it was Sonya did a lot of the work for her team. Mandy was fine, but Mandy could be protected in like a tag team match where she wouldn't have to do a ton of the work. Sonya usually handles that. But yeah, it was the right move. Boston Hug won. The men's elimination chamber match was fantastic. It was fantastic. Really made you think that Bryan was going to win. And the rest of the night was pretty forgettable, honestly. If I'm Ruby Riott, after I did the JOB for Ronda, if I were her, I would have gone back there and immediately demanded my release. Because that's the way they treat. And they pretty much did the same thing on Raw, even though they buried the whole Riot Squad. If I were the Riot Squad, I'd be like, fuck this. We want a release now. Because this is the way we're going to be valued. We don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So if I'm Ruby Riott, I would be pissed off. Because they've devalued her to an extent where it's like, if she gets a title match, do you believe she's going to win? You can't run her up against Asuka now without significant rebuilding. You can't run her up against Becky without being rebuilt. She just got buried on 2 straight nights by Ronda Rousey. And that's not Ronda's fault. That's just how the match was booked. If I'm Ruby Riott, I'm like, look, I want my release. Because clearly you guys don't have anything in the cards for me. Let me go make my name somewhere else.
Yeah.
Ruby Riott. I'm not an advocate for people like, oh, well, maybe they should go to All Elite Wrestling. But Ruby Riott is one of those people who probably could go to All Elite and rebuild their brand a little bit. Honest to God.
Yeah.
And if she takes Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan with her, good. Holy shit, does WWE not care about Liv Morgan?
Yeah, really.
Holy shit, did they not give a shit about Liv Morgan? Which is terrible because Liv Morgan went through some tough bumps and terrible spots and crappy botches this year. And then they had to come out on the side of the people who botched against Liv Morgan, injured Liv Morgan. But when it comes for Liv to kind of get her due, God, no, we don't have anything for her. God. If I were Liv Morgan, I'd be furious. And Sarah Logan too, but I don't think Sarah Logan will leave. But if I'm Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, I'm fucking gone. That was that. And I told you that after that Ronda match. And after Raw, I have the same thing. I'd be gone. If I were WWE, moving on to Raw real quick. If I were WWE, that is the last televised show I run in that town. That's the last one. Yes, you are a paying customer. And yes, you have the right to react and not react, however. But for crying out loud, WWE brought in 4 of the biggest guys in developmental, and they started trying to run big angles, and they reacted to almost nothing.
They were terrible.
I'm sorry. That should have been one of the most monumental Raws of a while, and that crowd put everything down. They didn't react to Paul Heyman. They didn't react to Braun Strowman. They barely reacted to Triple H. So I'm sorry. That is, if I'm WWE, that is the last televised event I hold in that area. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get a house show. Sure, you'll get house shows, but I'm not running another Raw there. I'm not running another SmackDown there. I relegate that to live events like Corpus Christi. Fuck Corpus Christi. They are house show loops only now. If I'm WWE, if I have any say, house show only. Period.
Yeah.
And I would start running more televised events in other areas that maybe would appreciate a live Raw more. Sorry, it's just how it works.
No, you're right. It was terrible.
Lafayette, Louisiana, you're done. It was terrible. You had Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano against the Revival, and you sat in your goddamn hands.
Yeah.
You had Finn Balor show up and him teamed with Ricochet, and you sat in your ass. You did nothing. You had Aleister Black and Elias. And if Elias can't get a rise out of a crowd, sorry.
You failed your test.
You failed it. And honestly, Raw was fine. And again, if I'm Ruby Riott and if I'm Liv Morgan and I'm Sarah Logan, I go back there and I'm like, we're done. Give us a release now. But Raw was what it was. SmackDown was I didn't see any video from the show, but SmackDown looked to be much better in terms of crowd reaction.
Eventful.
And more eventful, the Kofi Kingston thing. So that's the match at Fastlane.
Crowd
I don't like what they did. Asuka comes back and after a month away, and you immediately have Mandy Rose get a fluke win. I'm sorry, that's dumb.
It was funny how they even brought up to her. They had her interview, and they said, "Are you feeling like you got lost in the shuffle?" She goes, "I don't want to talk about Charlotte or Becky. I want to talk about who's ready for Asuka." That was what she said, and then you get that. I would have been fine if Sonya had more of a role in it.
Well, honestly, if Sonya had cost Asuka here, that's fine.
But the way they did it,
you kind of run a bullshit finish. If Sonya had any impact in that finish, it's like, okay, well then Mandy Rose will get the match at Fastlane, and Asuka will just murder her, and then you could transition to the real match, which would be Asuka versus Sonya Deville.
No, I think that they're just burning this off as filler, and then she's going to get somebody else at.
I don't think she's going to get Sonya at Mania either. And, although, of everybody else on SmackDown at the moment, Sonya's probably the biggest match Asuka has.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, you already burned the Naomi match. I probably would have run Carmella here, to be honest with you, but.
Yeah. Well, that ship has sailed too, it looks like.
Yeah, so honestly.
We're just now starting to get some notes on Mania, as you know. There was an announcement tonight by Drake Maverick about 205 Live in WrestleMania.
Yeah, are they going to be on the main card?
Well, here's what was announced. Drake Maverick opened tonight's show and announced a single elimination tournament to determine the WrestleMania 35 challenger to Buddy Murphy. The tournament will kick off next Tuesday night in Charlotte and will feature 8 cruiserweights. The first two first round matches for next Tuesday night are Tony Nese versus Kalisto and Drew Gulak versus the Brian Kendrick.
All right.
They have not confirmed the other 4 tournament participants, but it looks like Humberto Carrillo, Cedric Alexander, Ariel Daivari, and Mike Kanellis will be eligible. There will be further updates as the week goes on.
I'm surprised TJP's not in there.
There's something going on with that. He was on Twitter today, and people are asking, well, when he's going to ask for his release to AEW. And he goes, I'm not going to AEW. I want to make it work in WWE. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I guess he mentioned about Ricochet, like, I don't know if he stole one of his moves or something, but there was some discussion of that. Something Ricochet did last night or something.
There's a possibility Ricochet did probably take one of TJP's moves.
Mm-hmm.
They do have some similar movesets, but I you know what? If I'm WWE, I read TJ Perkins' tweet, and I said, okay, so the guy's willing to make it work here,
Right?
And now I would start thinking about something I could do with TJ Perkins. Why not start rebuilding him? Make him a major player back on 205 Live again. So what if he's got heat?
Right.
Nia Jax has all the heat in the fucking world, and you're pushing her as a main force on everything.
Wow. So that's some information on 205 Live. Obviously, we know what the match at Fastlane is, but the big discussion point today was Daniel Bryan and who's going to face him at Mania. And as I said you earlier, the speculation is going to be a returning star, either from injury or a legend like Cena or Undertaker. Now, so it said that it would be Bray Wyatt, Cena, Undertaker, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Undertaker just apparently went into discussion about a match over the weekend, which, we kind of knew would happen as it got close. We knew he was no way going to be knocked behind the card. Mm-hmm. It could also be Batista as well, but again, Batista has no deal yet. Cena, it's said that he will have another match that isn't Daniel Bryan. I'm guessing it'll be Drew McIntyre.
Right.
So that leaves you with, Bray, which you can do something with that because of Eric Rowan with Daniel Bryan and the history there. You could do Bray, and the whole corporate thing and that. You could, it's Sami Zayn, who apparently has said is cleared, but again, that might be a little bit, it kind of ties in with last year's Mania where Bryan came back. But again, does that fit? I don't know. Be a good match, but does it fit? Meanwhile, you got Kevin Owens, who has been doing these everyman vignette kind of things, right? Who would fly in the face of Daniel Bryan. I think they did another Owens thing tonight on SmackDown.
They just replayed the same thing.
Oh, they played the same thing. Okay, that's all I read was that they did, but so Owens would fit, and I said this to you before. I remember the night that we heard him say that I'm about a month out, or either Raw or SmackDown. When I heard that, I said, "Well, a month. That's the day after Fastlane." Which, if they're not going to reveal the Mania match till then, which is probably what's going to happen, that makes sense. Owens comes out, and there you go. You got your WrestleMania match. They can even tie in last year's Mania and the everyman thing. And can't you just see like Kevin Owens like doing a verbal the promos between him and Daniel Bryan? You could even have somebody had this vision of like Owens like knocking Daniel Bryan down, shoving pizza down his mouth.
That'd be great.
And it's being like, because of everything that Bryan's been saying and stuff. Like you could see a lot of fun with that. Mm-hmm. So I told you off the air, I thought, all signs were pointing towards probably Kevin Owens. And I would think that's probably it. But I think the one thing that could stand in the way of that is if this Kofi thing continues to take off. Because the crowd just keeps getting louder for him. Unfortunately, I think poor Mustafa Ali lost his push. I think that's where this was going originally.
It was pretty clear that, but even before this, what Kofi Kingston got in that gauntlet match was supposed to be Mustafa Ali. What Kofi Kingston got in the Elimination Chamber, that was supposed to be Mustafa Ali. I think you're just delaying Ali's push, and it sucks because that wasn't even Ali's fault. He got concussed.
No, but you're in a situation now where the crowd's just totally on Kofi Kingston right now. And you can't. I mean, look, you heard today that Vince apparently sees Becky Lynch as the chosen one. And if it's one of the first times in recent memory that Triple H and Vince agree on somebody to push as like a major force, that they both are all in on Becky Lynch, you know who's going to walk out with the Raw title now, because there's no disagreeing at all. Apparently, Vince fought people tooth and nail on her winning the Rumble and finding a way to insert Charlotte instead of Becky, because originally there's probably going to be Charlotte that won the Rumble and Becky was going to get kind of added on. So that speaks volumes. I think they're in the same spot with Kofi right now, where Kofi's getting that reaction because he's so rootable that. I mean, I don't know. You'll probably see this later, Mike. And he did a nice little Randy Orton callback in the Tights match.
Oh, he did.
He had Orton lay down. He just started yelling, "Stupid, stupid, stupid."
At Orton?
Yeah. I thought it was hysterical. That's good stuff.
You know that was Randy Orton's idea too.
So it was a nice callback. I enjoyed that. And that match, that main event match was phenomenal. But yeah, he's going to get the Fastlane match, and very likely he won't win it there because they're not going to wait. There's no way they're going to turn the title off there. Yeah. That's just a filler pay-per-view. But he's going to get that rub, and then we'll see what happens. But I think right now it's Kevin Owens. That's who I think it is. So we'll see. I mean, there's always the potential here where they can set this up where Kofi ends up winning Money in the Bank this year or something.
Yeah, they might. Or honestly, though, I think they're going to give Money in the Bank to Mustafa Ali.
It'd be like the Del Rio thing, kind of. Yeah, I could see that. You're right.
Make it up to him.
Yeah.
And look, no offense to Kofi Kingston, but Mustafa Ali does break down different barriers.
And he's younger.
He's young, a little younger. He's younger, but he does break down different barriers and more than one way, I should say, as well.
Right. Well, we'll see what I think they have to do something with him. I mean, he's probably going to be available for Mania, I think. So, yeah.
They might end up in that U.S. title program.
But that might be. So you got the Daniel Bryan stuff. There's some. We'll see what happens with Batista, Cena, Undertaker. Asuka stuff is out there. As I said, there was at one point Lacey Evans versus Asuka was on the WrestleMania card. That's now not the case. It could end up being the case again, but right now it's not. We don't know who her opponent is. I still think it'll probably be somebody from Raw because they've been having people call her out from Raw, but we'll see. It is said that there might be a Kurt Angle retirement match at Mania. I don't know how they're going to have time for all these matches, but
it's WrestleMania, they'll find time.
But even if it's not a retirement match, Kurt Angle will be on the card. And I think that's all of it. I think there's a lot of news today. Just trying to make sure that I got all of it. Because I know that there was so much stuff that came out this morning. Oh, and I told you about this, but it was reported by the Young Bucks that they were pitched a big invasion angle by the WWE.
Oh, yeah.
You read about that?
I did. I saw Meltzer. Meltzer apparently reported on it. He heard it from his besties, the Young Bucks. And then Meltzer I love Meltzer kind of threw this little dig at the end. It's like, oh, well, I don't know. WWE probably would have screwed it up.
Well, I told you back in December that was kind of what they were planning.
Yeah, that was what they were planning. But I just love that little Meltzer dig.
Mm-hmm.
WWE would have probably screwed it up. It's like, Meltzer, you can go fuck yourself.
That would have been a really good idea, though.
It would have been a very good idea. It would have been a very good idea. Meltzer, though, can eat some shit and just bury himself in a hole. You just fuck right off.
Yeah, it's
a little embarrassing now.
At this point,
it's a little embarrassing. Go jerk off to your New Japan and Young Bucks matches, okay? Please, thank you, and shut your goddamn mouth.
But I mean, that was reported. It might have involved Omega. who else? I forgot. I'm trying to remember the
Probably
report.
Omega, Young Bucks, Cody, and Paige.
So it would have been a good. It would have been a cool angle, kind of like an NXT type thing. So it's too bad, but yeah, that was reported. And also yesterday was announced that DX will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which will include China, which is a big deal because people have been advocating for her for a number of years. And now she's in. So kind of a little bit of a swerve because I told you this yesterday. I didn't think they wanted Triple H's first time into the Hall of Fame to be as part of a faction. And I also didn't think they were going to go this way because they were going to go the Hart Foundation, but maybe they decided to wait on that. I don't know. Maybe they'll just put Jim Neidhart in as a single, which I would. I would do that this year, but still, I mean, if you saw Triple H's opener last night, he was very, very excited about himself being a Hall of Famer.
To be fair, I'm surprised it took this long, but Triple H is still considered an active participant. So
that Triple H intro last night between his NXT guys getting call ups and talking about him in Hall of Fame, boy, he was a very excited man last night.
He was very happy. Yes.
Noticeably happy. Like that shit eating grin was hilarious.
He was ready to make a boy happy. That's what he is.
Yeah. But still, it was so lots of stuff out there. Now, what's how, how is it all going to play out? We'll find out because right now, as you know, we're kind of in that we got what 2 weeks before Fastlane. Oh, it's March 10th, of 3 weeks. I'm sorry, and then then you're about a month out of Mania. So, these next few weeks are going to kind of be more filler, just to kind of get you to that point. And then once you get to Fastlane, that Raw and SmackDown after Fastlane are going to be really, really big because they're pretty much going to pretty much toss everything but the kitchen sink at you. You'll probably know Cena's match. You'll probably know Undertaker's match. You'll know if Batista's going to come back. That's when he's going to show up. Because here's the thing: they're not going to have to do too much building with Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda at that point. They're not going to probably have to do too much with Brock and Rollins because there's not much you can do. Whoever Bryan's facing, that person's just going to show up, and then you're going to start the build. So a lot of these, you're going to be focusing on a lot of these matches that kind of just start springboarding right then and there. So yeah, so I think you get through these next couple of weeks. That first week after Fastlane, you'll probably know the whole card, at least the majority of it. So a couple more weeks and you'll know. For everybody that's been wondering, and because this year it's been odd because outside of maybe the Rollins match we knew early, we knew the women's match pretty early. The Raw women's match pretty early. Other than that, we didn't know much of anything. Everything's been kind of up in the air this year.
Well, we finally got a Hall of Fame nod too. So
yeah, so you're going to get a lot of this stuff pretty much in the last month before Mania, which is unusual compared to some of the previous years here. But I think it shows you how screwed up things got for them. I know the fall was really rough, but let's think about something. They had the person that they were building all of Raw around and so many of their WrestleMania plans around ended up having to leave because he had cancer. So, they had that going on, and then there was obviously a lot of injuries, and there was obviously a lot of other stuff going on, and kind of changed a lot of things. This, if I'm being honest, this is starting to remind me a little bit of 27, a little bit, maybe a little bit better because they have more to work with. But where it seems like they had to curtail plans kind of a lot. And they kind of couldn't settle on anything till maybe like the last 6 weeks before. I think 32 was like that a lot too. But it's kind of that same kind of thing. Last year they got kind of lucky that they were able to get some of this stuff done early. Hey, you can't. Sometimes some things you just can't control. You just can't. So, all right. With that being said, we're done. It's at midnight. Time to call it quits. So let's do that. As always, the show might be yours. Not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your questions or comments related to the show. Things we talked about on the show, things we said, topic ideas or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover. Questions about the show and the scheduling of the show. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you find it. Once you're on it, so you can interact with us and know what's going on with the show, follow along, and all that good stuff. Again, follow us on social media, Facebook and Twitter, very important, so you know what's going on with the show and can interact with us. And, that way you don't get left in the dark. You don't want to do that. 2 ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime on our main on YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on YouTube. When you do, you'll be taken to our show page where you can find every episode since we began airing episodes on YouTube. That's way back in mid-October 2015. So every episode from mid-October 2015, all up to tonight's current episode, available for you to stream anytime you want on YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on YouTube. If streaming is not your thing, maybe prefer to listen to us on the go, or listen to us in general. Because, you don't like seeing us on screen, or maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. Again, you just don't, you prefer to listen to us, or you're interested in older episodes of the show. I stumbled over myself there. That's what happens when I script my notes. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. We have access to every episode we've ever produced in the over 8 years we've been doing the show. So every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run, every episode from our Talk Show run, and of course every episode from our current YouTube run. All YouTube episodes transfer into audio format for your convenience. Every episode we've ever done in audio format for your convenience, but from the most recent, that being tonight's, way back to the oldest, way back in October 2010. All those episodes available for you to listen to anytime you want on Podbean and iTunes. To search for In the Spotlight 411. So again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. To search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, to search for In the Spotlight 411. Whew, okay, I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
It's time for bed.
Thank myself for another great show. Sorry about that. Pat myself on my back. And thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. That is it for tonight. Again, our next show this Thursday. It won't be a very long one. Box office beat, TV highlights. We'll do a special report on the current state of the box office because it's kind of a mess right now. We'll do Oscar preview, and then I'll talk about last week's film awards, give you some statistics and all that kind of fun stuff. All that will be coming at you on Thursday. Again, we're on a 2-show-a-week schedule right up until conference tournament week, the second week of March. That will be the week that we, kind of go back. We'll go on to a 1-show-a-week schedule for the rest of March, so keep that in mind. So that's kind of an idea of what's to come. I'll let you also know on Thursday some ideas about where we're going to be going with the show in the future. So all that on Thursday, and again, next couple of weeks we'll be doing 2 shows a week, and then after that we'll be down to 1 for the rest of for the back half of March. So I'll keep reminding you of that so you don't forget. And so with that being said, that is it. I hope you all have a great rest of your night, great Wednesday, and a great Thursday. We'll see you back here this Thursday night, February the 21st at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Keep that in mind, we're back to 10 o'clock. Until then, have a good night, everybody.